Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another super cool radio interview. I'm your host, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. I got some incredible guests joining me at this time. They are members of Fire Sale. Please welcome Chris and Brad. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me.
Thanks for having us on, man. We appreciate it very much.
Of course. I know we got so much to discuss. Fire Sale got some new music that was released in February. But before we get to that, I got a fun non-Fire Sale question to kick off this interview. A question I've been asking my guests so far this season. So what is one album that you think is 10 out of 10, no skips?
Brad, you can go first if you'd like.
Oh, man, on the spot. Well, so taking it back to the roots, obviously I think Green Day Dookie is a no skipper. But you know, it's funny. The first album I can remember saying that about to a friend of mine was, I think it's the self-titled Newfound Glory album. I remember literally working next to my buddy and saying, dude, every single song on this album is very, very good. Like, I don't want to skip any song on that album. So it's funny you say that, because that's the first one that comes to mind when I actually think about, noticing that there was a no skip album.
I have many. Do you want me to just give you one?
It's your interview. Feel free to give as many as you like.
Okay, well, I'll give you some eras of my life. So the first non-skip record that I ever got was Master of Puppets by Metallica. I'm actually wearing a Metallica shirt right now. I'm older than both of you, so that's kind of what got me in the door and wanted me to play guitar. Like, that was it. But if you want to go like currently, I mean, I never skipped any of the No Use for a Name stuff and face-to-face stuff. That stuff is, so, we're going to get into it later, but being in a band with Matt Riddle kind of still blows my mind, even though we're friends. It's like, yeah, dude, I grew up on all of your bands. So those, and then nowadays I will say I'm a huge Alexis on Fire fan, and that new record that they just put out last year, no skips for me. There's melodic stuff, there's fast stuff. It's like you took every band I like and put them in a blender, and one band came out. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
I'm gonna check that out. I'm not familiar with them.
They're from Canada. They came up in that whole metalcore post-hardcore thing, but they became much, much more than that later on in their career. And I mean, it's got grunge tendencies. It's got punk. It's got hardcore metal. They have pretty vocals, screamy vocals. Like, it's amazing. I have their stupid logo tattooed on my hand right here because I like them so much.
Right on.
But I have a lot of dumbass tattoos, so it doesn't really mean that much.
All right, well, before we talk about Fire Sale, I have to ask though. So, like, what are some of the most notable tattoos you have?
Notable or stupid?
Well, both.
Okay, well, notable. When I have children, my son's going to be 8 next month and my daughter's 6. And when I found out I was going to have my son, let me see if I can do this. It's a boy right here. And then when he was born, I got his name, Silas, right there. And then when my daughter, it's a girl. And then I got her name, Indy, right there when she was born. Dumb tattoos that I have. See that? And then if I put them together, it says Mama's Boy.
What did it say when they were apart? It was choppy.
Nothing, just a bunch of random letters. And
okay.
On one hand, it says MMSO, and some girl asked me one time, I was waiting in line at a gas station. She goes, "What's MMSO?" I was like, "Oh, those are my initials." With way too many letters for initials, but I just have a bunch of really stupid shit. I've got Indiana, which is where I'm from, which you told me now that you're from South Bend. I was on tour with my old band, the Ataris. We were in Toledo, Ohio, and this guy was backstage, and he's like, "I'm a tattoo artist. I love your band. I got to give you a tattoo." And I didn't know what to get. I was like, "I only have like 30 minutes." So he gave, I'm not going to show it. I haven't worked out today, but I have the Indiana outline of the state of Indiana on my rib cage, which is the dumbest shit I've ever done in my life. So yeah. Brad's all look nice and pretty. I've got some,
and none of mine mean anything. Mine were just like, go to the guy and just be like, "Hey, can you draw some cool stuff and put it on my arm?" Or put, the only one I have that really has meaning is on my leg. for a buddy of mine that passed away. He was a tattoo artist. So I've got like 2, needles crossed with the date that he passed away. And what's funny is I just did the month and year. I mean, the month and day. So 5/22. And it just happened to also be a couple years later, the same day that we bought our first house. So it's like always 5/22. It's got multiple memories now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always tell people,
like memorable.
When people ask me what my tattoos mean, I'm like, it meant that at one point in my life I had a disposable $300. That's what it means.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Definitely, for sure.
Do you have tattoos? You don't have any tattoos?
I have no ink on me.
Not yet.
Well, we'll see. I don't really like needles. So.
Dude, there's some good shops up around South Bend, man. If you ever want to get one, hit me up. I got some buddies up there.
Okay. I definitely, there's quite a few up here actually that are like really good. Like I've seen some like in person and like they look really good. So one day, if I ever do decide, I would definitely let you know.
Can I make one more? You said, this is our interview. We're not talking about fire sale yet. I have an opinion. Like, how old are you?
I'm 26.
26, great age. Okay. The only thing that bums me out about young people, when I was getting tattoos at the beginning, it was still like old ladies would like grasp their purses when you walked by them because they thought you were like a drug dealer or something or a criminal. Nowadays, I see these kids. I teach guitar, and I've got a lot of kids that are like in high school or college, and they come and like, oh look, I got my sleeve done last weekend. They'll go into a tattoo shop, get an entire amazing, immaculate sleeve done. I feel like you're supposed to have some shitty tattoos.
Yeah.
It's like a yearbook. It's like, I mean, I've got some good work, and I mean, I don't look like I got them in prison, but I have a couple that are questionable because I was young and stupid. I've got the freaking Sublime Sun on my arm that I was going to get covered up. And I'm like, no,
I was put it on your belly button, dude.
I was 18 and I really was into Sublime and I thought that was cool. And yeah, but I don't know. And I'm not saying anything bad about kids getting tattoos. I think it's great. It's all personal. Do what you want, but you should have a couple shitty ones. I think that's like a rite of passage,
Yep.
It's almost like paying your dues for stuff.
Yeah.
Literally paying for it too.
Dude, I used to work at a record store and they were trying to diversify. So they had a tattoo guy that set up in the back in this little office. And one of my first tattoos that I got was I traded him a little TV that I had in my room for the tattoo because he wanted a TV in his studio.
Oh, wow.
Wheeling and dealing. And that tattoo's horrible and covered up now. So yeah, you got to have some shit tattoos,
For sure. That's definitely. Do you think you won on that trade or not?
I think I won on the trade because the TV was like a $50 TV. It was one of those huge like ones that are real heavy because there's a tube in it. It was back in the 90s, man. And I was like, hey man, he goes, man, I really want a TV in here. I was like, I got a TV. You want to do a tattoo on me? He said, yeah. So we did the trade and I got it covered up, but I'm still glad I did it. I wouldn't have had that TV anymore. And I still have the ink underneath a better tattoo right now.
There you go.
For sure. All right. So no, I do got to dive into some fire sale for this interview. I know. I feel like we could talk about so much, but I do got to focus on fire sale for a little bit. So how did the current lineup for fire sale, how did that come together? Because I know you talked about it. You mentioned it earlier a few minutes ago.
Well, I'm really, really glad to have Brad on this interview as well, because, to get his side of how he joined and all that's going to be a really cool thing that we can talk about. But the way that the band kind of came together was back in 2020 during the pandemic. I was super bored and I wasn't working and I had nothing to do. And I have a podcast called That One Time on Tour, and I interview musicians, kind of the same thing you're doing right now, releasing stuff weekly. And it was really cool, but I still had all this free time because, it was the pandemic. We were all stuck inside. So I wrote a couple songs and I hadn't written any songs for years. And I sent them to some friends, Matt Riddle being one of the friends I sent them to, and he dug them. And I was like, I wonder if I can like somehow fake my way in and get him to play on it. But he just did it. He sent me bass tracks back and they were really, really cool. And then, my buddy Pedro, which had done a couple projects with me in the past, he was in Amberetta at the time, this band out of Virginia. I asked him if he would sing, and he said yes. And it just kind of went from there. The original lineup, Tim from Protest the Hero, he's out of Canada. He was in the band playing piano and some second guitar stuff. And we had a couple drummers. Tucker from Thursday did the demos for us, but he was busy and the pandemic was lifting and he was going to be touring. And I knew that he was not going to be in the band. He just kind of did it as a favor because we're buddies. And that was the initial kind of lineup. And then we had a session guy named Will that played on the first 2 releases. And then we got Matt Morris in the band, who is an amazing drummer. And Matt Morris's cousin is Mr. Brad Edwards, which is we're talking with right now. And I have never been in a band where I was the only guitar player. And I didn't want it to be that because I write a lot of crazy shit. And I knew Brad played guitar, but I didn't know if he would have interest. He was in our second music video as the guy buying our record at the record store. And so we got back from that little tour where we did the video and we had a little Zoom meeting and decided that we wanted to invite another person into the family. And that's where we get Brad. I'd love to hear Brad's outlook on that whole thing, if that's cool.
Yeah, just real quick. So when did Brad, when did you officially join Fire Sale?
I think it was officially around May, I want to say.
Last May or June. It was real quick.
Yeah, because the shows were in early April, right?
Early to mid-April, yeah.
And then, we all hung out when you guys were in town, obviously. And everybody just got along really well. And I, even though I wasn't playing, like I was kind of around, the whole time they were in town, just because I like all these guys. And I've known Chris, as far as like through the internet.
We've done projects together.
Yeah, like we've done previous projects and stuff. So I mean, it wasn't like I was just buzzing around, whatever. But obviously, the other guys in the band I had a lot of respect for, and it was just really cool to be kind of in the same room as all these people at the same time. And then it sort of came up, I think, then that y'all had tossed around adding another guitar player, and it was like, hey.
We even, just in case we wanted to do it, which we kind of knew we did, we took a press photo with Brad. Mm-hmm. So then, like, once he joined the band, we had things set up. We had a press picture. We had everything. So
yeah,
we kind of knew we wanted to do it, but we didn't want to jump the gun because we didn't know what was going to be happening with the band. We didn't know what the plan was for future releases. It was kind of like, you're in the band, now sit there and do nothing. Like, we wanted to make sure that it meant something and that he was going to, really feel like he was a part of the band.
Right. Yeah. And it's been awesome. Everybody's been like super cool. Obviously, me and Matt Morris, the drummer, we've been playing music together since '94. So, we're very tight with each other as far as musically. We already know, I know what Matt's going to do, 10 seconds before he does it, kind of thing. So it was just a pretty natural fit, honestly. And then, like I said, the other guys were really cool about it and excited about it even. And there we are. You guys had already kind of started. I know we haven't put out a ton of music, but there is a catalog of demos that are incredibly deep. So it was pretty cool.
Last time I checked, I think there's like 26 or 27 songs we haven't released.
Yeah.
Because all I do is, okay. So I teach guitar for a living. My wife works all day, so we take the kids to school in the morning, then I'm home until 3:00 with nothing to do. So all I do is write songs, and they get mad at me. Well, Brad doesn't get mad at me, but some of the other guys in the band, are like, can you please stop writing songs? We have too many songs. But you never know when you're going to write the right song, You
Mm-hmm.
throw them out if they're not good.
Well, no, for sure. I mean, it's better to have too many songs than not enough songs.
Yeah.
And
that's what was interesting about these last 2 releases is that they're both so solid of songs. And I think, Chris, you can kind of elaborate on this a little further, but the way, they were already doing these sort of 2-song, singles releases before I was in the band. And like, not that I didn't get it, but I was just like, that's just interesting. Like, instead of just working on a full length, they're just putting them out sort of, I felt like kind of as they were done. But as we started working on these last 2, it made a whole lot of sense. And Chris, kind of, I think you've said it previously that it's a good way, because if you put out a full length, the full length gets put out of there, you might get 1 or 2 songs get picked up, on Sirius or whatever, and then it's forgotten about until you release your next stuff. And doing this kind of gives a constant drip of music, and it really is a smart way. When you think about it, it's a really smart way to do it.
We're a new band, and I feel like a lot of people have given me shit. They're like, why? I'm so sick of these 2-song releases. Like, I want a full length, which is a good problem to have. Don't get me wrong. When people are asking for more music, I'm aware of that. But it's like, when you're a new band, and yes, there's the pedigree. Like, I was in a bigger band, and Matt was in a bigger band, and Pedro was in a bigger band. You guys, you and Matt have done different stuff. Like, everybody has a pedigree to where people are going to maybe want to check it out. But I'm very much on like a daily communications thing with our label, and me and the president of the label, Seth, have kind of decided that we wanted to build this organically and do the single thing, because a full length is in the future. That is the goal. We want to do that, but we have a really good relationship with Sirius XM radio. We have a good relationship with some other different terrestrial radio stations. And if you put out 2 songs at a time, those 2 songs are going to go a lot further than if you put out 10 or 15 songs. A couple of them are going to hit, and then the rest are going to get lost in the shuffle. And we're not just putting out ones we finished, like Brad kind of thought at the beginning. I think he's realized now. We're trying to put out only songs that we feel are quality songs. And I'm not saying that people put out fillers and bullshit. Well, yeah, people do. They put out fillers and bullshit. And I'm not saying that we're special in any way. We're not reinventing the wheel. Listen to our music. It sounds like the 90s threw up. That's what it is. But I just feel like we're not going to release something until we're really sure that it is right for the band.
Yep.
So when we do the full length, there's going to be a lot of work involved in that, because I don't want to have a song on that full length that we're kind of iffy about. Like, maybe people won't like it. I mean, I don't care if people like it. I want to serve us first, and hopefully people can enjoy it. But every song we've put out so far, even Long Overdue, which was like that weird poppy song, which was the first song that I wrote with Pedro back in the day. That song came out because our old label needed it for a compilation. They wanted an unreleased song, and it doesn't have a bridge, and it's maybe a different quality than some of the other songs that have come out, but I still love the song, and that's why we decided to put it out,
Yeah. But it's cool doing it this way. Allows us to really pick and choose the absolute best of the best, in our opinion, of what gets released. And I once you guys explained that to me initially, it was like, man, that is so genius. Like that, it really does make a lot of sense. And I love the way that it's being done right now.
We live in a single driven world too. I mean, like I told you, I don't think that we're going to be a big hit with the youth of America or anything, but I talk to kids and like young adults all the time that I teach, and they don't talk about records. They don't talk about albums. They talk about singles and playlists, and if we have 2 songs that we feel really strongly about, they're going to get added to the radio. They're going to get added to, we just got playlisted on the editorial playlist on Apple, and that's the second time that's happened. So I feel like we're doing something right. We're not trying to take over the world. We're just trying to be guys in our 40s that are lucky enough to still release music that someone out there cares about. That's all we want.
But I think it's really, as both of you guys said, very smart marketing just to focus on 2 very solid songs, especially, to really get the name out there. Because again, obviously the full length is going to be awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to when that eventually happens. But at least to establish you guys stuff, especially with the connection with Sirius and other radio stations as well, to really circulate that name is very smart marketing, especially nowadays.
We just, we're not on Sony Records. We don't have an unlimited budget. We're on Negative Progression, which they take care of us better than any label I've ever been a part of. Like, they're in the trenches with us, figuring it out. If we need anything, they're right there for us. But that's another thing. It's like, I know what kind of budget we can have for certain things we're going to do for this band. I don't want to go over budget for no reason. If we put out 10 songs, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. We put out 2 songs at a time. That's more feasible. And we can put some of that money into marketing or into sponsored ads or whatever you do nowadays. Like I feel like as a smaller band still trying to get our name out there, it's a better way to go. That's how I feel.
Yep.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. And I do want to talk about the latest single. How do you say that correctly before I get it right?
The Albatross?
Albatross, very good.
Do you not know what an albatross is?
I do not actually.
It is a bird. And
It's a bird.
I'll tell you, it's a bird. Back in the day, the pirates and like the seaworthy men, you know, on their ships. There's this old saying, an albatross around your neck, and they would if you got in trouble or if you did something, they wouldn't make you like walk the plank. They would put like a dead albatross around your neck, and that was like a punishment, right? So that term has become an albatross around your neck, which like can be talked about for anything in your life that's like bad that you're dealing with. It's the albatross around your neck. And we can get into the lyrics and stuff, but that's kind of where it comes from. We had a bird on the cover of our last 7-inch. And so we're kind of going with the bird theme again. And then we've also got a song called Vultures. So who knows when that comes out, what's going to happen.
Oh yeah,
but
that's true.
We like birds. I don't know why.
I didn't even think about that.
Well, yeah, definitely a lot of bird themes connected throughout this, but so I do want to talk about. Yeah, I saw. I think a few days ago you shared the lyrics for the Albatross.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. So like, what's like the meaning behind it and the inspiration for the song?
I can talk a little bit, and I'll let Brad come in on this as well. I can speak a little bit about it, but Pedro does all the lyrics. That's kind of his job because he's the singer guy, you know. But I will say that we've had a lot of discussions about it, and people have it's really resonated with kind of guys and girls our own age, like that have kids, their parents, because the lyrics were written after a school shooting, which Pedro doesn't even know which one because there's so many. We don't remember exactly when it was, but it just kind of covers that. It covers how it feels sending your kid to school and not being worried about the normal shit that you used to be worried about, but being worried about if they're ever even going to make it back home. Like it's scary, man. I never in my life thought that I would have to deal with that. And, you know, Brad is a father as well. I want him to speak on this as well. Everybody in the band is a dad, you know, and it's just such a weird thing. And we're not a political band. We're not going to get up in your face and start yelling politics, but it's a fucked up problem, man. Like I didn't have active shooter drills when I was 8 years old, like my kid does.
That's what I was getting ready to say too. Same thing.
And it's just, we're not anti-gun. We're not anti anything, but I'm anti insanity that I think that when my kid goes to second grade, he might not come home. So that's kind of what the song is about. And all of our songs, none of our songs are dumb or have stupid lyrics. They all are kind of serious, but some of them are storytelling. Some of them are kind of like general relationship type stuff, you know, like normal songs. This is the first song that we've kind of touched on an issue that means a lot to everybody in the band. And I was unaware of how many people were actually going to really kind of get the lyrics. Like it's a whole new thing for us because people have liked the songs we've put out and shared it and been really into it. But this is like, I'm getting like detailed emails from people saying like how much it touched them. And like one guy hit me up, I think he was from Utah, and said that he had actually, like when he read the lyrics, it made him cry because he feels like we do. And that means a lot, man. I think when you can strike a chord with a certain audience, I don't know, we're not helping the issue. Maybe we're spreading awareness. I wish there was something we could do more than just write a song about it. But yeah, Brad, like, cause we've always kind of discussed the lyrics in that song. Like, what did you think about it?
I mean, you hit on pretty much everything I was going to say. And the thing that always strikes me the most is you said, the active shooter drills. Like the fact that I'll get a text saying, hey, we're having a lockdown drill today. And, you know, there's some schools that now have, you know, some newer schools that have these like walls in place that will literally drop, you know, down to sanction off sections. And I mean, the fact that even has to be a thought is just insane to me, you know, because that was man, we went to school and we just hope to get good grades and not get bullied at, recess or whatever. I mean, and just the fact that even our kids have to even think about that and know the reason why, that's the worst part, that they have to also, like realize what these drills are for, and it's just that a bad person could come into your school. And I mean, that breaks my heart for my kids, that they even have to think about that or rationalize what this drill is for. We'd have a tornado drill or a fire drill or whatever. I mean, yeah, any of that stuff can happen. But
I mean, we went to school
drill.
We went to the school in the 80s and the 90s. So I mean, like,
Yeah.
I remember when I was young, the biggest thing my parents were worried about was when it was that whole time in the late 80s, early 90s where kids were getting kidnapped. Like there'd be kids on milk cartons. Like I'm missing.
Yep.
Like that was really a thing. There were after school specials and like ABC Friday night movies about it. But man, I would take that in a heartbeat over somebody shooting up a school. Like,
yeah,
like it's just, I don't know. There's
no rhyme or reason. There's nothing you can do to like necessarily, I mean, you can prevent it. There's obviously steps that can make it preventable, but but like the stuff you're talking about, if you get kidnapped walking home from school, it's just like, that's kind of a random chance, and maybe you just don't walk the way you went. I mean, there's things you can do, or don't walk home from school. There's things you can do to prevent that, but some crazy person walking in there and you just don't have a chance. There's just,
and I can't speak for everybody else in the band, but I don't even look at it as a political thing.
Right.
That's what it always is. It's always the right and the left. The left's like gun control, and the right's like, this isn't the time to talk about politics. It's like, shut the fuck up and figure it out.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be smarter than us. You're running the country. Fucking figure it out. Like, I don't care if you're blue or red or what your issue is. I don't want my kids to die learning how to add, like I don't know. And like I said, I'm not speaking for everybody else in the band. I just figure it out. Like, do put some kind of plan into effect that you think is going to make this issue better. And I don't know. And I just hope that people out there, listening to the Albatross, it really is kind of the first song that we've written that tackles an issue like this. And I just, if you're out there worried about this stuff, you're not alone. Every parent in the United States is worried about this stuff.
Yeah. We really considered homeschooling for a long time. And, it's just, then you take away that social, environment, and that there's a lot to be learned there too. So it's, it's you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. So we pulled my daughter out for 4th grade and then put her back in. And then now my one kid's in 1st, and I've got another one that's about to go to kindergarten this next school year. So, it's something to think about all the time. And I still got 18 more years to think about it, so hopefully sometime between now and then they'll figure something out.
Oh no, for sure. And I hope so, because it's not. I really like how you said it, Chris. It's not a left or right issue. It's just more like parents shouldn't be concerned, that something like this is going to happen to their kids, or family members, like older brothers or sisters. They shouldn't be worried about their siblings going to school either.
Yep.
It's a very real emotion you guys tapped into with this song for pretty much everybody who's got somebody going to school, and it's sad that we've kind of come to this point that people really have to be concerned. There has to be special drills and rooms for this stuff.
I'd like to know, you said you're 26, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm 45. So if I was crazy, I could be your dad. So I want to ask you, going all the way back to Columbine when all this stuff was starting off, you went to school when some of this shit was instituted, right? So like, did you have active shooter drills? Did you have to deal with any of that?
So not honestly, like I've been trying to think back since you guys been talking, like what I did in school. And honestly, I think we had a little bit when I went to grade school, like we had like lockdown procedures and stuff, but it really wasn't like really like there was more emphasis on like a tornado drill than like a lockdown procedure. And then in high school, again, we had like lockdowns, but that was just like stay in your class. And, like it wasn't anything very special. Like, and they would do like lockdowns for like when they would search lockers for drugs. So like a lockdown could mean like anything. So it wasn't like specifically a shooter drill.
Yeah.
But yeah, there wasn't that many even when I was in school, and that was about, less than 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's just ramped up so much. It's like every year there's more and more. So
we also just feel very kind of like, we've got to give all the credit to Pedro because I sent him the song and then he came up. I named it though. That's the thing where I come, and I talk about this in all the interviews. The way that things have happened lately, or pretty much since the beginning of the band, is even if Riddle sends the initial idea, like Riddle sent me, pretty much the skeleton of the Albatross with his bass. And then I went in and recorded the guitars and came up with some ideas for that. And once it's all ready, then we send it to Pedro for vocals, because we all live in different states. I mean, Riddle's in California, Pedro's on the East Coast. You guys are in Texas. I'm in Indiana. It's kind of crazy. But I always put a name on like, for some reason, it's either if I'm watching a documentary or whatever, I just name it some weird name. And I had just kind of read this thing about the origins of that bird, the albatross, like what it means to have an albatross around your neck. And I thought it sounded kind of cool and ominous and weird. And so I named it that, not knowing that Pedro would take the title and a thing that he just saw on the news and kind of make the lyrics be relevant and current, but also fit the name of the song that I gave the name of the song. And then the artwork, if you look at the artwork that the amazing legend Mark DeSalvo did for us, he did our last 7-inch as well. He hit me up. He's like, I've got this idea. He said, an albatross is a seabird, and it's always known with if you see an albatross on the ship, it's bad luck or whatever. And so he goes, I think I want to have it be an underwater scene where there's an anchor and the albatross is trying to get up to the top of the water, but the anchor is holding the bird down. And I just thought that was so cool. And it takes it, the meaning behind it and everything, to like a whole new level. And that's the thing that Mark did with our last 7-inch as well, because it was a fool's errand. And a fool's errand kind of means like you keep doing the same thing and it keeps turning out the same way. Like, you're a fool for doing it. And his idea for that was a blackbird feeding her babies in a nest, but the nest is made out of matchsticks, so it could go up in flames at any time. Like, being able to kind of, I don't know, have songs that, even if they're not big political issues or whatever, they mean something. And then taking the art and working with someone like Mark, who is one of my favorite artists ever, working with a guy like that to have artwork for the release that not only fits the theme of what's going on musically and lyrically, but it's also just really cool art, man. Like, I'll buy a record because the cover's cool if I don't even know what the songs are, and I hope maybe that will happen with us too. Who knows?
Well, I know for sure. I know a little bit over time. I do got a few more things to cover, if that's okay with you guys.
Dude, whatever you need, man.
Well, I did want to talk about the art because I love it. I love the colors he used. I think they're like very vivid, and just the detail he put into, and especially kind of taking, the idea, but also transforming it to still mean the same thing through a different visual. Incredible. I love it.
Well, he told me, I don't know if Brad, if you saw this or not, but he made a post the other day of our two covers, and he said, I'd really like to thank Fire Sale for allowing me to do the darkest art I've ever done. So like, it's not like it's creepy or anything, but most of the time it's, like a Poley record where the guy's watering the desert out in front of his Airstream trailer. Like, he does really cool art, but a lot of it's kind of tongue in cheek. Right. So I think he's enjoyed being able to kind of do this kind of abstract, but kind of right on the nose, kind of different kind of stuff with us. And I have no plans to use anybody else. We've got a really good relationship with Mark.
Yeah, he's super cool.
He's made our last two releases. Well, this one coming up, there's the new songs will be released on vinyl very soon, but he's just kind of taken something we were really proud of and just put his stamp on it and made it even that much cooler,
Oh no, definitely, for sure. So how did you guys come into contact and meet Mark?
Well, I have a podcast. I think I mentioned it earlier, that one time on tour, and I had Mark on as a guest. I have a lot of people that are involved with like Epitaph Records and Fat Records, like the 90s punk stuff. And a lot of people have been asking for Mark to come on, and I hit him up because for some reason we were Facebook friends, even though we'd never met in real life. And he came on the show and we got to be pretty good buddies. And then when all this kicked off and we were trying to figure out with the label what we were going to do for art, he was the first person I wanted to use. And we hit him up and he was so great about it. And now he's doing other stuff for the label. He's done like another band on the label. And I don't know. It's a great relationship with Mark.
Oh no, right on, definitely. And again, the artwork that he's made, I really enjoy it, and I'm glad it really like fits what you guys are doing. And I'm definitely gonna check out his other work because I really like his style.
I mean, what did you grow up listening to?
So I would say mostly like classic rock music. Obviously, I'm a huge fan. Like Alice Cooper is my #1 favorite musician.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. I just interviewed his current bassist Chuck Garrick, so that was incredible.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Alice Cooper, and then like I got into punk later on, like obviously like Black Flag, Rollins Band, Iggy Pop's one of my favorite as well. I got to see him live for the first time last year. I didn't think that was going to happen, but he played a show in Chicago, and of course I had to be there.
Well, I tell you, if you want to check out more of Mark's stuff, you can go to his website. I think it's just markdesalvo.com, but he did stuff for Matt's old band, No Use for a Name. And he, like I said, he did Pulley, he did No Effects. Who else did he do, Brad?
Dude, Lagwagon, if you already said that.
Most of the 90s kind of California punk bands, he was all
Yeah, you look at Epitaph and Fat, mostly Fat, I think was most of it, but I could be speaking wrong. I mean, just so many covers over that kind of 90s stretch of that skate punk era.
See, and I was kind of worried. I mean, I know you said you got to get out of here, but I'll tell you this quick little thing about Mark. When that was brought up at the beginning, like, hey, we should go with Mark, I was stoked, but I was also like, at that point, man, you know, we were all in these bands that did things back in the day. The songs we're writing still kind of have that vibe. Do we want to use the guy that did all of those records? Like, I was kind of like against it at first, but then I was like, screw it, man. Like, we're all dudes in our 40s. We're writing punk rock that we really like. If we have access to the guy who basically made the template for what punk rock records looked like in the 90s, we should lean into it. And that's another thing. We were going to go somewhere else to get it mixed and mastered. But then it came up that you should go to the Blasting Room, the guys from the Descendants, you know, like that's everybody in punk rock, Rise Against, No Effects, everybody goes there. And I was kind of at first like, oh, we should go somewhere. Why should we go somewhere else? I'm just going to lean into what I am. I'm 45 years old. I grew up on Southern California skate punk, and that's still what I play. So I'm going to use everyone that made that what it was and not worry about what people think. Because our market, like, you're 26. If you like our band, dude, God bless you. Because I know that most of the people that like our band are dudes in their late 30s, early 40s that have kids and used to listen to the Descendants and No Effects. Like, so someone like you saying you dig it, make me stoked, man, that you like what we're doing, because market wise, you're not our demographic. So thank you for that.
Well, I'm always great to be an outlier in someone's demographic, so I'm good with that.
But hopefully that just means that that's keeping alive. You know what I mean? That
I like Billie Eilish. I don't think a lot of 45-year-old dudes are real. She's great. She's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to, I'll say it right now, and maybe this will get to him at some point. If I had to pick someone right now to produce the Fire Sale full length, I would pick Phineas, her brother. I think that dude, not only did he win the Grammy 2 years in a row for being the best producer, the way he layers things, the way he thinks about music. Can you imagine, Brad, if we did our full length with Phineas? I think it would be awesome. Amazing. I mean, it'll be amazing with whoever we work with. It'll be amazing, but I just think that mixture would be kind of different, you know?
I think it would definitely be very interesting. Now I want that to happen. So if anyone watching or listening, make that happen. That would be cool.
We'll take it.
I don't think it's going to happen because, like, my buddy actually is her tour manager, and if anybody could make it happen, he could, and I don't think it's going to happen. So.
Well, maybe hopefully
Yeah.
down the road, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But we'll see. But I do want to talk about I did want to talk about the B-side just real quick because I had a question about it. For I Remember Damage, there's like a sample intro to that. What is that taken from? 'Cause I'm curious.
There is and Brad, I don't even, you know about this, right?
I don't know what it's from.
A lot of people don't know. There's this show called Station 11. It was on HBO, and it's kind of this post-apocalyptic Walking Dead type thing, but there's no zombies. It's just like, it's nuclear winter in the future or whatever. And there's an episode called I Remember Damage. And when I was writing the riff for that song, I kind of had it on in the background because I watched that show religiously when it was on. And I've got like a big TV in my studio, and I was sitting here like jamming, and I had it on. And when I got that riff, I was like, oh, I really like that riff. I'm going to record it. So I paused the show and I opened up Logic on my computer, and I recorded that little riff in there just so I wouldn't forget the riff. And I had to name it something when I saved it. So I named it I Remember Damage because it said up there at the top of the TV. That was the name of the episode. And so then when I finished the song, I was like, man, it'd be really cool because there's a part in that episode where the main character, the girl, she like is saying like a monologue about, my memories are the same as yours. They mean nothing. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that she says, but I really liked that little thing. So I sampled it and I kind of filtered it and made it sound kind of like it was on, I don't know, like an AM radio. Cause if you change something more than like 25%, they can't sue you. At least that's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, we might find out soon.
Yeah, HBO sue us, please. I will take the bad publicity. But so I put it at the beginning, just thinking it was kind of cool. And then like, once again, off the title and off of that little sample at the beginning, that sample was there on the first demo. Like, and we kind of talked about, should we leave it? Should we not? And I was like, man, I love it. I'm leaving it on there. But Pedro took that title and everything and wrote those lyrics kind of off of what I named the song. So you didn't know any of that, did you, Brad?
I didn't know any of that. No.
Brad's learning new stuff on this interview.
New guy material here.
Well, that is really cool. And I always like sometimes when bands take those little samples just to include, because I think it adds another layer to the song. I think it matched very perfectly with I Remember Damage.
I mean, we had talked too, Brad. I think you might have been privy to some of this. We had discussed, are we just going to call the song Damage? Are we going to actually call it I Remember Damage? Because that's the name of the actual episode of that show. And in my mind, I was like, I think that's kind of cool. It's kind of like this weird left-wing tribute kind of thing to that show. And I really liked the show. The show didn't have a lot to do with when I wrote the song, other than the fact that it was paused in the background. But I mean, I kind of like the sample, and I really like the idea that, I Remember Damage. You can't really copyright a name of an episode of a TV show. So yeah, it was inspired a lot by that. And that's what kind of inspired the lyrics. But yeah, I love that song. And the one thing that a lot of people have said, and I know, Brad, you and I have kind of discussed it, that and I'd like to get your opinion on this too, is that, when you put out two singles like this, there's got to be a side A and a side B.
Mm-hmm.
And we went kind of round and around, like, what's going to be side A? What's going to be side A? And I was like, well, then I want to call it the Albatross because that got the bird thing. And I think that song is maybe a little bit catchier melodically, but I Remember Damage is mid-tempo and a little more radio friendly maybe. So we had kind of a discussion a lot of what was going to be side A and what was going to be side B.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing is we made that decision, and everyone that we've talked to so far that's heard them have said, well, they're both side A.
Yeah, that's all the reviews are like. I don't know why they're even calling it, not that why they're calling it a B-side, but it's like it's hard to pick an A-side song on this one, on these two, and I completely agree. I know we flip-flopped a lot, back and forth about, man, should we, like you said, should we, maybe Damage should be the A-side but our core audience, I think, or our core demographic will resonate more, I think, with the Albatross.
Yeah.
So I think that was the best decision to make that the actual A-side. But that's the benefit of putting these songs out two at a time is, I mean, both of them are just great songs, in my opinion. And that's me coming into the songs that were for the most part, I mean, written, I added, little stamps on them here and there, but me coming in from the outside, it's just like, I was blown away with, when we picked these two, that's just how good they both were.
And I want to give
pick a favorite.
I want to give some credit to Brad because, this is his first interview and I feel like I've overtaken the interview, but I want Brad to know, and I want everybody out there to know that there are a lot of things on both of these songs that he kind of came up with for his part that I would have never thought of. Like when you played, you played the rhythm part on the chorus on Albatross and Drop D.
Yeah. Because Matt was up doing high stuff on the bass. So I was like, well, what if the key was D, right? I mean, and I was like, well, what if I go to drop D and kind of fill in some of that low stuff on these open chords? And I think it sounds pretty cool.
And you did a really cool arpeggio on the pre-chorus of Damage, and you played the little lead part at the end of Damage. That was the thing when we wanted Brad to join the band. It was just, well, we want to fill out the sound, and it would be someone else in the band that can do backup vocals and writes. So it was a win-win all the way around. And then he took these songs that we had done that we were going to release next. We wanted him to be a part of it. So I'm like, I'll take out one of my rhythms that I've already recorded. You do your stuff. And he could have just bullshitted his way through it, but he actually wrote a new part that made the song that much better. So the idea of getting Brad in the band is the best idea we've had since we started the band.
Thank you. I appreciate
You're welcome.
that a lot.
And I mean that. I don't have to lie about it. I'm an asshole most of the time. So
yeah. I feel weird too. I know I told you guys before we started, but I keep looking over here and like my monitor's over here and my camera's over here. So anybody that's watching this, I'm not like just completely zoning out while other people are talking. I'm actually looking at them, but my camera's over here. So I'm probably making like awkward eye contact. So I keep seeing myself looking off and I'm like, oh, that looks so stupid.
Honestly, I think Harrison Ford like said something about if like people are paying attention to your hair or like your eyes or whatever, then they're not actually paying attention to what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. There you go. I'll take it.
Yeah.
But I keep trying to make sure I'm looking at the camera and then like I'll catch myself looking over here and then it looks weird.
So, but I do got to talk about the future plans for Fire Sale as we're closing out this interview. I've had an amazing time chatting with you guys. I really appreciate it. I've had so much fun, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you,
man. We've had a blast. I love doing these, man. It's great.
So what are the future plans for Fire Sale for the rest of 2024? We're heading into March. So like, what is everything looking like for Fire Sale?
I'm going to let Brad take this and then I'll fill in gaps.
So there's already, I don't know what I can say or can't say. So just say cities. Just say cities. Don't actually give names of festivals. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So we're really trying to hit the festival circuit, as much as possible. With all of us being, parents and, I work from home. And so I'm taking my kids to school, pick them up. I know Chris does the same thing. Matt works from home, my cousin, Matt, and he runs a business. So none of us are like really in a position to be gone on tour for like, weeks at a time or months at a time. So the festival kind of circuit is actually a really cool opportunity because you just kind of, get in there, hit it for a weekend and then get out. So what? Denver
in July. Yeah.
Denver in July.
Montreal and Quebec City in September.
Yep.
And then there's a couple others that aren't quite figured out yet, but you'll definitely, if you live in about 4 or 5 areas of the country, maybe even another country, you'll get to see us at some point this year. Yeah. And hopefully more next year. Like we have a lot of interest and actually some offers for Europe, for South America, Australia. We have a really good label out of Australia, P Records, that takes care of us really good down there. So, I mean, there's definitely going to be more Fire Sale shows in the future, but we want to do them correctly so we don't lose money because we all have responsibilities. We're all adults, which mentally I'm not really an adult, but I have to be when it comes to my kids and my wife and all my bills. So, well, I don't know if I'll tell you this then. So Brad, and maybe you can attest to this. Arrested Development, not the TV show, but the concept of Arrested Development. I started touring a lot when I was about 22 years old. I think when you start doing that, And like every job I've ever had since then has been something in the entertainment industry. I think you kind of stop growing mentally when you start touring. At least that's what I've heard. Because yeah, I'm an adult. I pay my mortgage. I do the shit that I have to do. I take my kids to school. I feed the cat. I clean out the litter box. I do all that shit. But in my head, I'm like 20 years old.
Is that why I'm like the mentally responsible in the group? Because I've never toured?
I think that might be it. Dude, ask Riddle. Riddle and I have these conversations all the time. It's like when you start touring, you stop getting older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've never done like a full-on proper tour. You know, I've done shows in a state kind of thing, more regional stuff with the bands that I've been in, but nothing out on the road, you know, where I'm hours from home, just because work and stuff like that's always prevented it my whole life.
Well, you're going to get to do some fun stuff with us because we're going to Asia and South America and Australia and Europe and all over the place. Just short.
It's already been fun.
Snippets, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. That's all I need. Just see the world.
Yeah, just a little bit. You know, each weekend I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want a record of this on the interview, so it'll be saved forever. Brad, get your passport, dude.
I know, dude. I need to. I have to. Not I need to. I have to.
And tell your cousin to get his too.
Yeah. Both of us are slacking, but dude, I just never traveled. I went to Jamaica way back in the day and got married in 2004 in Jamaica, but all you had to have then was a birth certificate. So now you got to have a passport, and I hadn't left the country. So
have you left? The interviewer, Matthew?
Oh, sorry, you froze.
Oh, no, I don't even have a passport.
Have you never left the country? You have to, man. Where would you go if you could go anywhere in the world?
Actually, like I do want to go at some point, like, because I'm from Polish descent. I would love to go to Poland at some point. I know I had like my grandfather and stuff, like they were lived over there and stuff like that. But I definitely would like to do that at some point.
You should save your money up, fly into Warsaw, go to Krakow. Poland is great. The food is wonderful. The people are great. Just don't go in the winter.
Yeah, if I could tell my 26-year-old self something, it would be to travel the world more, get out and see things and do things, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely what I want to do. It's hopefully at some point. Again, money and bills do prevent me at this time right now.
I know it.
Definitely. I know it. I used to tour a lot with my old bands, and we'd go UK or went to South Africa with the Ataris, did a bunch of cool stuff. But at one point, I had a buddy who worked at United, and his parents were passed away. He wasn't married. He had no family. So he made me his person that could use his discount or whatever. And you could fly
partner.
Yeah, you could fly anywhere in the world that United or Delta, I don't even remember what airline it was, anywhere that they went or that their partners went, you could fly standby for taxes and fees. So I went to Europe for like $47. Like it was crazy. And I was going places, if you're flying standby, you're gonna get a seat because nobody's going there. So I would tell you, yeah, you're 26. I know bills and everything, but man, at least somewhere close. Like go, dude, you're 3 hours from Canada. Go check it out. You know?
Yeah, but I do want to get up there at some point. I'm going to Detroit here soon for a show. So
if you go to Detroit, I think you're supposed to have a passport, but maybe if you have an ID, they might let you try to go across the Ambassador Bridge and get some poutine and then come back, man. You don't even know what poutine is probably if you've not been to Canada. I don't know, maybe.
No, I've relatives in Canada. I know what it is.
Okay, cool. It's the best thing in the world. Brad, do you know what poutine is?
Yeah, vaguely. I couldn't identify it probably, but I know.
Well, guess what? In September, you're gonna have more of it than you want to have.
Oh, I don't know.
Eat it every day. It's great.
You know, I'm a picky eater, dude. I'm not trying to do that.
It's just cheese curds, gravy, and French fries.
Oh, dude, I'm in on that.
Yeah, it's great.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
As a matter of fact, I may just go make that here in a minute.
If you need a recipe, I'll send you the recipe. Let me know. And Matthew, if you ever want to make poutine, I'll send you the recipe, man.
I might need it. I mean, I think I got to hit the gym afterwards, all the calories, but
yeah.
When you get to my age, you just don't care anymore, man.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I still
I'm just kidding. Brad looks all buff. He's been working out. I feel like a piece of shit.
Dude, I've been slacking since it's been cold. I don't want to go out in that cold garage. And now it's 90 degrees today in February. It's ridiculous.
It was 70 here. What is it in South Bend? Because we're like
60.
Yeah, we're like 3.5 hours apart. I'm in Muncie and you're in South Bend.
It's 90 degrees in February. That's just insane.
So either spring is going to go fantastic or we're all doomed. I don't know which one.
I hope that our kids have a planet in the future, because I mean it's not supposed to be this warm. I don't know.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But before we get off too much, as we're closing out this interview, so for everyone watching and listening, where are the best places to find Fire Sale online?
I will take this. There's a couple of different places. Our website doesn't get updated super often because I slack on it. I do everything else. But our website is firesaleisaband.com. But the best place to find all the stuff, if you want to buy a record, if you want to buy a t-shirt, you want to buy an air freshener, we have air fresheners now. You can just go anywhere. Yeah, anywhere on the socials at Fire Sale is a Band. So Instagram, TikTok. I try to be funny on there, but it's few and far between because I don't want to post something every fucking day. I don't know, because there's people on there like, do you know how to do content on TikTok? Well, I was like, shut up, man. Like, I'll do it when I feel like it. But on Instagram, we have a lot of posts on Instagram and links on Instagram to buy all our stuff or listen to us online. But we're on Spotify, Apple, Tidal, all the bullshit. Just Fire Sale or Fire Sale is a Band.
Right on. And I'll make it a little bit easier. I'll drop some links in the description of this podcast as well. Please check out and support Fire Sale. Chris, Brett, thank you so much for hanging out with me here on Super Cool Radio.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, we get carried away talking. Chris and I do this on the phone too. I'll be like, you got 5 minutes, and it'll be 3 hours later. It's like, hey, I guess I should probably go take care of my kids.
I think most of the time it's my fault, though, as Matthew can probably attest to by listening to me talk on this podcast. So this is Super Cool Radio.
That is right.
That's what it's called. I can't wait.
Cool.
I want when I get off here, I'm gonna go check out. You have other episodes and stuff, right? It's not.
Oh yeah, I've been doing this for 5 years. There's plenty of interviews.
Shit, I'm gonna check it out, man. And dude, you're in South Bend. If you get down to Muncie, hit me up.
Definitely. My brother used to live down there, like pre-pandemic. He used to live down there, so I went there a few times. So. But yeah, I'm definitely, man. And it's not that far away. It's like 3 hours, less than that.
We have a movie theater at a mall that looks like it needs to be demolished. And a lot of really cool bars downtown. It's not a bad little place, you know?
Nice.
Yeah. So no, I'm definitely.
It's not Dallas, Texas.
Midlothian, Texas. Come
Midlothian,
on,
Texas. Yeah. It is kind of like Midlothian, Texas, honestly.
Yeah.
It's definitely something, I can say that.
Well, dude, we've had a blast, and
any
excuse I get to hang out with my band members is also good. So thanks for doing that too.
Of course. But Chris, Brett of Fire Sale, thank you so much for hanging out with me here on Super Cool Radio. For everyone watching and listening, of course, I am Matthew Thomas, the host of Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty.